Hey y'all, I have another scary story for you guys. I have been so obsessed with learning about the dark web recently. I don't know why. I mean, okay, to be fair, the dark web is a very interesting place, in my opinion. I feel like there's just so much that we don't know, and there's so much available that we don't know about. And I mean, not good things. By any means, the dark web is not a good place. But me and Kayla have been playing this game called Welcome to the Game. It's almost like a simulation game of the dark web. But basically what you have to do is you have to go through all of these different websites, and they're really messed up websites, like really messed up, you guys. But you have to go through these websites and you have to find these keys, like these codes. And basically, like the end of the game, you have to put all these codes into this thing, and you are supposed to be saving this girl who was kidnapped. She's gonna be killed. And then during the game, you have enemies who come and try to kill you because you're on the dark web, and you have the police, and you have all these different things. There's so many aspects to the game, and it is one of the hardest games I have ever played, you guys. And we have been obsessed with watching this guy play the game because he's really good at beating it, and he's beat it millions of times. But we cannot beat it for the life of us. It is so hard, you guys, but I've been so addicted to this game and wanting to beat it, and it just like sparked my interest in the dark web, I guess. I also saw Unfriended Dark Web, which a lot of people didn't like for some reason, but I thought it was actually a pretty good movie. I thought it was interesting, I think mainly because I'm interested in this kind of stuff, so I just like learning about it in any way that I can without actually having to access it, because I will never do that. But I found a story on Reddit, and I'm really excited to read it. I haven't read any parts of this. I kind of skimmed the first couple of parts just to make sure that it was something that I would enjoy reading and something that you guys would enjoy listening to. And from what I've read, or from what I've seen from skimming it, it seems really good. I'm really excited to read this because all I can think about lately is the dark web. And that sounds horrible, and I know that. I just like weird things. There are children literally screaming outside. I also read a story a while ago called The Deep Web Kidnapping, and that was such a good story as well. I don't know, I just like these things. Okay, so I found a story related to it. This is more so related to the black market than the deep web, but I thought it was kind of similar, kind of. But there are 8 parts to this story. It's very long, so I'm going to try to get through the first 4 parts in this video. I'm most likely gonna get through the 4 parts, but if I start losing my voice entirely, I'm gonna have to stop because I have to stream tonight. Self-plug again. Streaming on Twitch. Come watch me. But like I said, I'm gonna get through the first 4 parts here, and then later on this week I will have the second part to the story, which will be the finale. Okay, let's get into it. I thought I wasn't gonna talk very much, but it's been 5 minutes, so. And as per usual, I will have the author link down below as well as the Reddit, so if you guys wanna check out more of their stories, please go do that. But this story is called My Parents Run a Successful Business in the Black Market. Part 1, the house. My parents always bought me the best of the best. The best clothes, the best toys, and they sent me to the best schools. Even though they weren't extremely cuddly and affectionate, they took care of me. They were good people, or so I thought. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon, and my mom was an architect. Everyone was always so surprised that my mom was a successful architect. I guess in retrospect, it was fairly rare back then. Anyways, our house was very unique. My mom designed it and my dad paid for it. She wanted a house unlike any other house, and she got it. When I was about 4 or 5, they built an addition to the house. Instead of busting down a wall and building an extension, my mom designed a sky bridge connecting from the top floor of our house to the top floor of the addition. To help you better understand, imagine the size of a guest house. The addition was that size, but the only way in or out was through the sky bridge. You could only get into the addition of the house from the very top floor. It looked like a long white hallway with a door at the end. There were no windows on the bridge and no windows in the addition. When I was little, I didn't ask many questions, but I knew I was to never go down the white hallway. I couldn't have anyways. The door at the end of the hallway was a sterile metal door that was always locked. Honestly, I had no interest. We were wealthy, and I had everything I needed in the main house. I remember when I turned 7, we had a birthday party for me. Somehow, one of the kids got separated from the clan and made their way upstairs. They found themselves in the white hallway. My dad bolted like I've never seen once he knew one was missing, and he found her in the hallway. "What's that room?" "That's my office, sweetie. Come on, let's get you some cake," my dad said as he took her hand and guided her back down the stairs. I guess at that moment I realized it was weird, but still I said nothing. My parents always had packages coming in. Dad always said they were medical equipment that he kept in his office. Sometimes I saw bits and pieces of what was in them, but it was always smaller parts of something that looked like it had to be assembled. Occasionally he'd get surgical instruments. "Honey, that's for my collection," he'd say. And just as there were packages coming in, there were packages going out. The packages would always be by the front door, and my mom or dad, depending on who left first, would take them on their way out. Still, I asked no questions. One day, when I was 14, my mom was out on a job site designing some house for a millionaire, and my dad had gotten called into emergency surgery. A car wreck, broken femur, right through the skin. It was a Friday, and I had stayed home from school because our cat had surgery, and I was an emotional teenager and couldn't bear being away. My parents reluctantly let me stay home. Dad was watching me, but then got called in. Potato, our cat, was on some drugs, so she was all over the place. I was reading a Cosmo when I realized Potato was gone. I hopped up and started to frantically look for her. I looked everywhere, except the white hallway. Potato slept in the white hallway a lot. Maybe it was the lighting, maybe it was the way the cool marble felt on her skin. I ran upstairs to the white hallway, and to my surprise, the door was ajar. Then it hit me. This was the first time in my life I'd ever seen the door open. Potato had to have gotten in. I checked the whole house, and the door was cracked just enough for a skinny, drugged-up cat to slide through. I hesitated. No, absolutely not. I couldn't go in there. But Potato... If I got caught, I'd just say I had to save her. She doesn't know where she's at. I walked towards the metal door, and as soon as I touched the door, the temperature dropped dramatically. The metal door felt like ice. I pushed through. It blew cold air directly above me. It had to be in the 60s. I shivered. Why is it so cold in here? Then the extravagant spiral staircase caught my attention. My mom had such an eye for beauty. I knew this was her style. I came in on a landing. Immediately, the only place you could go was down the spiral staircase. The black marble staircase stood out in the totally white and bright room. I slowly made my descent. At the end of the stairs was another door. Then I heard a meow. I whipped around. Potato was behind the staircase, loopy as ever. Potato, you're gonna get us in trouble. We can't be down here. I started to walk towards her, and then I heard a noise from within the room. I stopped. I turned my focus back on the room and stared at the door. Mom? I waited. Another bang. I jumped. I guess the bang and my sudden movement scared Potato and she went flying up the stairs. Damn cat. Another bang. I reached for the door and it was unlocked. I guess they figured a metal bolted door was enough and it wasn't necessary to lock this one too. I pushed the cold metal door open, and that's when I found out what my parents were involved with. That's when my innocence was stolen. That's when I learned of the evil in this world. I had discovered their playroom. I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to run, I wanted to wake up from this nightmare. And then I entered the playroom. Part 2, the playroom. I walked in and was immediately in awe of the room. The first thing I noticed, surprisingly, was the cylindrical shape of the room. It didn't make sense how it could fit in a building this shape. The floor and walls were white, disturbingly white. It's like when you see someone with snow white veneers and they're so perfect they almost make you uncomfortable. It was so clean it almost glittered. The walls of the cylinder room were lined with shelves and racks, each holding tools, saws, surgical instruments, and restraints. From the ceiling hung 3 big leather contraptions that took me a while to figure out. They were restraint swings. In the center was a chair that looked similar to a dentist chair. It had a Mayo instrument stand positioned beside it with a sterile sheet. On the sheet was orthopedic instruments, lots of hooks, retractors, surgical hammers, and things that resembled pliers. They were so clean they sparkled. For a minute, I was in a trance. Shock is a weird thing. When you find yourself going through the motions of shock, it seems like we get caught up in the most mundane things. I think it's like a coping mechanism for our brain. I heard another bang, and I snapped out of it. I looked up, and to the right of the chair, I saw another metal door. Whatever that noise was, it was coming from there. By now I'm scared shitless, and my brain is now allowing me to understand the heaviness that I'm feeling in the room. I shouldn't be here. I wish I never walked in here. I walked towards the metal door. I didn't want to. It was like in the scary movies where the dumb white people run towards the danger. I was the dumb white girl. As I approached the door, I realized if I proceeded that nothing would ever be the same again. Even at such a young age, I was aware of the magnitude of this. I pushed the door and it opened. A part of me was hoping it would be locked. I entered a small hallway, all black. Clean black marble floors, clean black marble walls. In the hallway, I saw 6 doors, 3 on each side. The doors had small windows in the top of each. I imagine that's what doors in a psych ward look like. Maybe not as expensive, though. Man, did my parents love marble. For a second, I forgot why I was there, and then bang. I whipped around and it was the second door on my right. That's where the noise came from. Shit. Just turn around now, the smartest part of my brain told me. No, go check it out, the slow part of my brain clapped back. I had to. I walked up to the second door on the right. I took a deep breath before I could muster up the courage to stand on my tippy toes and have a peek. I pressed my hand against the cold, clean marble and raised up on my toes. I reached the window with my eyes, but I saw nothing. I peered around to look for anything, for anyone in the room, but I saw nothing. Help! A woman banged against the window so hard it vibrated my face, sending me rearing backwards into the hard door. Although it happened so fast, I still saw more than I ever wanted to. She was Asian. Her head had been shaved, and from her right temple was thick, dried blood. When she banged with her arms only. I know this because she had no hands. Fresh stitches lined the smooth sides of where her wrists should connect to her hands. I jumped up and bolted. I ran out of the hallway and back into the white room. When I was almost to the door, I heard the metal door at the top of the steps slam shut. Shit, I said in a whisper. I looked around for a place to hide, but there was no way I could go unseen down here. No, Katie, I'm not coming back to the office today. I'll be back on Monday. Just take whatever inquiries for my upcoming surgeries and put them on my desk. I'll get back to everyone then. It was Dad. I turned around so fast I was spinning and ran back to the black hallway. I ran to the second door on the left and entered the room. Thank God it was empty. I heard him enter the white room. I sat in the corner with my hands wrapped around my legs and pleaded with God in the weakest whimper. Then I heard the door. My heart stopped. I couldn't breathe. I was in full-blown fight or flight. Dad approached the Asian lady. Knock, knock, he laughed. You ready, Mary? I could hear the smile in his voice. No, please, sir, please, I won't say anything. I won't say anything, she screamed. It hurt my ears. Her accent was thick and full of dread. I covered my ears and kept wishing I'd wake up. But this was no dream. Who was this man that I called Dad? How long has this been going on? What would happen to me if they knew I found out about this? Whatever this is. My whole life was turned upside down. Everything was a lie. I wasn't like them. Was I? I snapped back from my thoughts as I heard her screams trickle off in the distance. He drug her out into the white room. It felt like hours went by before I heard another sound. A loud sound ripped through every part of my body. Even being separated by metal doors and marble walls, I felt it. It was a sound I knew. A sound I learned about on Bring Your Kid to Work Day. It was a bone saw. Part 3, the record. The saw made my ears pop. I tried to shut it out. Who knew how long I'd been down here? I could just get up and walk out. What would I say? Hey, Dad, sorry I came in your room. I won't tell anyone you're a sadistic murderer. Gonna go take a nap. Yeah, right. How would that play out? Would he kill me too? That was the first time that thought popped into my head. He wouldn't kill me. Not his own child. I would have immunity from his games, right? I woke up and jumped. What the hell? It was like one of those experiences where you spend the night at a friend's house and you wake up in the middle of the night and freak out because your brain doesn't immediately process where you are. Shit, I said as I stood straight up and dusted myself off. I had fallen asleep. How was that even possible? I just witnessed the most traumatic thing in my life and I slept through half of it? How? I sat there for 30 minutes and listened. I didn't hear anything. I waited. 30 minutes went by, or at least I thought. I was sitting in a dark, dark room with no lights or no sense of time. I slowly opened the door. I peeked out the door and down the black hallway. I crept out of the room and stopped by room 2 on the right. I looked in her room, in Miri's room. She wasn't there. Was he still working on her? Had he disposed of her completely? I approached the door that led me from the black hallway to the white one. I opened the metal door and braced myself for what was to come. I saw only Miri. Dad was nowhere to be found. I had absolutely no idea how long I had been in this place. Was Mom home? Was Dad gone? Did my parents call the police and report me missing? My thoughts broke as I heard Miri moan. Her back was to me, but she was slumped over the dentist chair. Behind her was an IV stand. A large bag for a regular IV, and a smaller bag for what I assumed was antibiotics. I approached the chair with fear. As soon as I was front-facing Miri, I gagged, fighting back my breakfast from that morning. She was semi-conscious, but also in a state I could imagine one being in after excruciating pain. Had he given her pain meds? Had she suffered his mutilations completely sober? And then I saw what he had done. Miri's entire right leg was gone. Thick bandages and layers of gauze were wrapped around her new stump. Dark maroon leaked from the tightly wrapped dressings. I covered my mouth in hopes of it muffling my scream. What was happening? My head was spinning with thoughts I couldn't bear to process. This poor lady had lost both hands and now her leg. And for what? What could anyone do to deserve this? The thought of him keeping her on antibiotics just so he could keep her alive and continue to play with her hit me like a sucker punch to the gut. I bent over and started sobbing. I was in shock. I was sick. I was angry. This was my dad, the man who taught me to play soccer, the man who attended all my stupid choir concerts and brought me daisies even though everyone knew I couldn't sing, the man who would listen to old records with me and birdwatch while we drank coffee on Sunday mornings. I don't know this man. I didn't know anything. Miri stirred. She wasn't aware that I was there. She was just fighting to survive. I had to get her out. I had to get someone to help her. I wasn't going to let her die in this cold white room. I was going to save her, even if it meant Dad going to prison. He needed to pay for his crimes. I started to run towards the metal door that led back to the spiral staircase. On one of the shelves by the door, I noticed a big green book. It hadn't been there before. It was the size of a dictionary. I would have noticed it before. In a room full of medical instruments, I would have noticed this green book. It was new. I grabbed the book and lowered it to my level. I placed it on the table under the shelf. The outside of the book said record in all gold letters. I opened it. The front page was a list of names. Beside each name was a price, a date, and an order. There were pages and pages full. Orders for organs, bones, and living people. Some people had numbers in parentheses beside their names. My guess was that these were repeat customers, clients. Whatever the hell these sick fucks were, I recognized my mom's handwriting immediately. Her elegant cursive that I always envy, her beautiful crisp lines. I was lost in thought for a moment but snapped back. I had hoped Mom wasn't as involved as Dad was. Maybe she didn't know. But she was in on this completely. This wasn't their first ledger either. I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that there was a market for these things. People actually bought people. I looked back at Miri, who was now completely unconscious. I couldn't let this happen to her, at least not any more than it already had. I would not let my parents hack her up until she was just a torso and sell her like she was livestock. I put the book back where I found it and started out the metal doors and back to the spiral staircase. I ran up the stairs as fast as I could. I got to the top, pressed the metal door, and gasped. "Hello, sweetie," said my dad. I looked at my mom with fear in my eyes. She nodded with a smile across her face and said, "It's time we teach you the family business, my dear." Part 4, the family business. I was frozen in fear. My dad was speaking, but it sounded like he was talking underwater. Jumbled, muffled, incoherent. The three of us stood in the white hallway and I looked up at the lights, still hearing the mumbled mess that was spewing from my dad. The light started to contort, then it went black. I woke up and saw my parents hovering over me. Mom had a wet washcloth on my forehead and it seemed like my dad had never stopped talking. When I was 5, my parents took me to a public park. It's one of the few memories I have where we did something as a family, besides eat dinner. I jumped on the merry-go-round and swung round and round until I was nauseous. I remember watching the green trees twirl around me as I started to spin out of control. There's an enjoyable panic that comes along with that. The perfect balance of fear and happiness. "Hannah." My vision sharpened and I focused. "There she is," Dad said with a smile. I sat up and looked around. We were still in the white hallway, and I was on the cold marble floor. Was everything a dream? Had I went on a mission to find Potato and just passed out? That had to be what happened. It was a nightmare. They helped me off the floor, and I stood and tried to get my bearings. "Now, we need to go sit somewhere and have a talk, sweetie," Mom said in a comforting tone. It wasn't a dream. The three of us walked down the stairs and into the living room. I took a seat across from the couch. I didn't want to sit with them. They sat across from me. They exchanged a glance and then looked at me. "I'll start." He looked at me with concern. "What you discovered today, Hannah, well, you weren't supposed to. Your mother and I have debated for years whether or not to let you know about what we do." My mind slipped off. Years? How long has this been going on? Had this been going on since the day I was born? I imagine Mom being pregnant and swollen taking orders for body parts over the phone. "Hannah, stay with us," snapped Mom. I focused back on Dad. "I know you have questions. You weren't supposed to find out this way. That's why we built the extension. To keep you safe and to keep you innocent. We never meant for you to find out this way." I looked down at my hands. I had a bad habit of picking my cuticles. Blood ran down my middle finger and twirled around it until it pooled in between my knuckles. I'd picked a hole in it. I couldn't feel anything though. "Oh, Han, you're bleeding." She jumped up and tried to tend to my fresh wound with a tissue. I turned away, rejecting her help. She stood there for a minute and then just sat back down. "I understand how you must feel," she said. "Do you?" I spoke for the first time. The words came out raspy and harsh. "Do you really? Do you guys honestly think you know how I feel?" I paused. They were silent. The floor was mine. I stood up, clutching my hand as it dripped blood on the floor and down my arm. My mom shifted in her seat as she watched the blood collect on the hardwood floor. Her OCD was her silent tormentor. Dad put his hand on her lap as to tell her to sit tight and let me say what I needed to. She looked at him and then back to me. "I'm sorry, did you guys ever accidentally find out your parents were serial killers? Did you ever stumble into their torture chamber to find a poor tortured victim? Do you guys really know how I feel?" "Han, we are..." "Stop! What the hell is going on? Who are you guys? How do you do this to people? That woman..." Tears welled up in my eyes. "That woman," I pointed my finger. "She has a family, someone who loves her. She has a life. What gives you the right to play God?" "Our business is not glamorous, no, but it is a business. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. There is a market for this. Regardless if we cease to participate in the business, it would still go on without us, make no mistake. This business will always have clients. It is lucrative and it's thriving," Dad said in a calm and collected voice. "Thriving?" I laughed in disbelief. "How can you guys do this? Have you no conscience? What if somebody was doing this to you or someone you loved? Is money more important than humanity?" "You're sharp for your age, Han. You always have been. The point of the matter is, there's no sense in playing the what-ifs. We are here. This is the present. Mom and I have been in this business for quite some time. We're veterans, you could say. We have perfected this trade and we are not stopping. The money..." He unclasped his hands and put them to the side. "It's good, Hannah. You will never have to work a real job. We have enough put back in your trust that your grandkids probably won't even have to work. With the money we make from my clinic and Mom's houses, we're well off. But when you add this to the mix, well, we are fortunate. Mom and I are retiring early." "Fortunate? For Christ's sake!" "Sit down, sweetie. Just take a breather. I know you're overwhelmed, and that's understandable. Your dad is telling you that you're set for life, financially. You will never struggle like your dad and I did when we were younger." "Don't you dare tell me you're doing this for me." "Not for you per se, but you benefit tremendously from it," Dad said with his elbows on his knees and his hands caressing his goatee. I sat down. My head was spinning. I didn't care about the money. Everything was so surreal, so numbing. I felt everything and nothing at the same time. How could I have never known this was happening in the same place I called my home? I ate here, I slept here, I played here. I loved my house. I used to love my house. "Sweetie, why don't you go rest? Sleep on everything tonight and tomorrow. And once you've processed this a little bit more, then we can talk," Mom said as she stood above me, reaching out her hand to help me up. I stood up without taking her hand. I moved past her and I headed for my room. I locked Potato and I in and put my face into a pillow and wailed. The deep, soul-suffering cry, the one that consumes you and you lose yourself in. I woke up to a loud knocking on my door. I looked around my room. It was morning. I had exhausted myself from crying and slipped into a deep sleep. I opened my door and it was my dad. "Hey there. Mom had to go to the office today to tie up some loose ends with one of her clients. It's just you and me, kiddo." He pauses, examining my unamused demeanor. "Thought I'd show you what I do." "What are you saying?" I barked. "I want to show you what goes on when I work." "You mean when you torture and kill people?" "No thanks, Dad. I think I'll pass," I said, shutting the door. He grabbed the door and we struggled. "Now listen to me, Hannah. This is what it is. You won't change this, and you won't fix it. You won't save anyone. You will, however, comply." My eyes were wide, and adrenaline was coursing through my body. I had never seen my dad angry. He had never even raised his voice at me. His hands went wet with sweat, and the one on the door slid down until it dropped by my side. "Well, today you need to come with me. You need to learn. And I know you're a loving girl, and you have a good heart, and you are kind. You don't have to change that part of yourself, dear, but you will do what we ask from now on. You do not want to suffer the consequences of disobeying us. Come." I followed him, too scared to resist. I said nothing. I walked like a mourning widow to her fallen husband's burial. Slow and sullen. We arrived to the white room. Dad looked back to me with glazed eyes, where tears may have been trying to communicate with me. I wish you had just stayed away from here, Hannah. It's all we ever asked of you. I feel like I'm just getting to the good parts now, and I'm a little bit upset that I have to stop reading, and I know you guys always get mad at me when I do this to you, but that's where we're gonna end for today. I don't know why I find this stuff so interesting. It's just so crazy that these things actually exist. Like, people actually do this shit, and it's fucked up, and it's horrible, and it's awful, and I don't understand how this stuff actually exists, but it is so interesting to me, and I hate that I'm interested in it. I hate myself. But I hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to read the next part probably right now because I don't want to have to stop, even though I'm torturing you guys. If you guys have any other stories that you want me to read, please send them to me. You guys have been sending me so many recently. I actually think a couple of you guys sent me this one, and I just never got to it, but I was on Reddit the other day, and I happened to stumble across it again because I've been looking at dark web stuff. Not on the dark web, just researching it because I get really curious, okay? It's the same thing with that, like, McCamey Manor. I was so obsessed with the haunted houses and stuff for so long. I just sit and research all this shit until I know everything about it, and then I move on to a new subject. But again, send me stories if you guys have any, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. I'm trying to debate whether or not I want to continue it right now, or if I wait, I'm gonna continue it.